And what I would like to focus on principally is the window between when the attack began and 5:15 in the morning when Navy SEALs Glenn Dougherty and Tyrone Woods lost their lives. There are roughly 7.5 hours there. And I recognize that in any military conflict, one inevitably faces the proverbial fog of war. But what I'd like to ask you to do is use the 2020 hindsight we have now. If you could go back in time with the knowledge you have today and play it over again. If at 9:42 p.m. Benghazi time, when the first attack began, you knew that at 5:15 a.m. 2 former SEALs would be on the roof of that annex and would face mortar fire. What specifically could have been done if we had that knowledge? And I recognize that is a hypothetical, but if we had that knowledge, what military options would there have been to prevent that loss of life and to stop that attack at the annex?
Senator, as you said, it's tough to respond to a hypothetical. Just as long as we're talking about hypotheticals, the best that would have happened here is that we would have had a heads up and we would have had troops on the ground to protect that facility. That's the best scenario, and that's what works the best. Once an attack takes place, the biggest problem you have is getting accurate information about exactly what is taking place in order to then develop what response you need to do it. You can't just willy-nilly send F-16s there and blow the hell out of a place without knowing what's taking place. You can't send AC-130s there and blow the hell out of a target without knowing what's taking place. You've got to be able to have good information about what is taking place in order to be able to effectively respond.
So in your judgment, if I understand you correctly, the most effective means would have been to have boots on the ground.
That's right.
If, and again this is a hypothetical, at 9:42 p.m. you had received a direct order to have boots on the ground to defend our men and women there, what is the absolute fastest that could have been carried out?
Well, based on the posture, our posture at the time, it would have been N+6 plus transit time with the closest ground force available, and so you're looking at something best case between 13 and 15 hours.
So if I understand your testimony correctly, that in your military judgment that there was no way conceivably to get troops on the ground sooner than 13 to 15 hours.
That's correct.
How about assets like an AC-130? If you had received an order at the outset to deploy an aircraft like an AC-130, what would have been the absolute fastest it could have arrived at Benghazi?
I don't even know exactly where they were, but I know there were no AC-130s in anywhere near North Africa that night.
I'd like to also spend a few moments on the decision making as this crisis unfolded. I take it neither of you received the hypothetical order at any point to get boots on the ground immediately.
No, that's right.
Now both of you mentioned that at 5 p.m. D.C. time, you met with President Obama for a regularly scheduled meeting during which you discussed the attack at Benghazi that had happened about an hour and 20 minutes earlier. You said the total meeting lasted roughly 30 minutes. How much of the meeting would you estimate covered Benghazi?
We teed up that issue when we walked into the Oval Office, so I would say that the first 15 or 20 minutes was spent on the concern about that, as well as Cairo and what might happen there.
And after that 15 or 20 minutes discussion of Benghazi, do I understand your testimony correct that neither of you had any subsequent conversations with the president the rest of that day and that evening?
Well, we continued to talk. I think we teed up some other issues that we were dealing with at the time to inform the president, and then once that concluded, we both went back to the Pentagon, and immediately I ordered the deployment of these forces into place.
In between 9:42 p.m. Benghazi time, when the first attack started, and 5:15 a.m., when Mr. Dougherty and Mr. Woods lost their lives, what conversations did either of you have with Secretary Clinton?
We did not have any conversations with Secretary Clinton.
No. So, and General Dempsey, the same is true for you. And one final question, because my time has expired. Senator Lee asked you about securing the compound and noted that it took some 23 days to do so, and I think to the astonishment of many viewers, we had CNN news crews discovering what appeared to be sensitive documents rather than U.S. forces or law enforcement. And I just want to make sure I understood your answer correctly, in that you said that you were not requested to secure the compound. And had you been requested to secure the compound, in your judgment, the U.S. military could have done so and could have done so effectively?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Mr.